the only way to beat a narcissist at their own game. Dealing with a narcissist feels like being caught in an endless game where the rules keep changing, and no matter what you do, you always lose. The narcissist pulls the strings, making you believe you're the problem. That if you just try harder, love more, or fix yourself, things will get better. But they never do. Instead, you're left feeling drained, questioning your own reality, and wondering how you became so lost in someone else's twisted version of love. The moments of warmth and affection feel like a cruel illusion, just enough to keep you hooked, only to be replaced by cold indifference or calculated punishment. You keep reaching for something that once felt real, only to watch it slip further away, leaving you empty, broken, and desperate for an escape that feels impossible to find. Yet even in the midst of that overwhelming storm of motivation and despair, there's one crucial truth. You can beat a narcissist at their own game. The secret is not to fight fire with fire, but refusing to engage in the cycle they've set up. Their tactics rely on your emotional reactions, your frustration, your hurt, your longing for validation. When you recognize that the rules of the games are designed solely to keep you off balance, you can start to reclaim your power. By choosing detachment over reaction, you disrupt the very fuel that drives their manipulation. Establishing clear, unyielding boundaries and focusing on self-care forces the narcissist to confront the reality where their provocations no longer matter. When you stop feeding their need for control, when you simply refuse to play along, the dynamics shift. The narcissist loses the leverage they so desperately crave, and you reclaim your sense of self. This is the one way to beat them at their own game. Disengage from the emotional dance. Empower yourself with self-awareness, and let go of the illusion they so carefully constructed. When you disengage, you essentially remove the very fuel a narcissist needs to sustain their grandiose facades. Narcissists thrive in your reactions. They need your emotional energy, your attention, and even your frustration to validate their self-image and maintain control over the dynamic. Every time you respond, you inadvertently reinforce their belief that you are essential to their identity and worth. Without your reactions, the narcissist's carefully constructed illusion begins to crumble. They are left with a void where their source of narcissistic supply once resided. This can manifest in several ways. They may feel exposed and vulnerable, as their usual power play loses its potency without your emotional engagement. Their attempts at manipulation or provocation become increasingly desperate and erratic, as they try to reclaim the attention they've lost. In some cases, the loss of control can lead to anger, frustration, or even a temporary withdrawal as they reassess their approach, though the underlying need for validation remains unchanged. Ultimately, when you stop feeding their need for control, you force the narcissist to confront the hollowness of their own identity. Their power over you and over their own distorted self-perception dissipates, leaving them with a sense of emptiness, and often a realization that their grand illusions were entirely dependent on the emotional reactions you had provided. Without our constant reactivity, the narcissist is left with a profound void that starkly reveals the fragility behind their carefully constructed persona. When they have our energy, emotions, and sense of self, they experience an intoxicating high, a surge of validation and control that fuels their grandiose self-image. This emotional rush is like a powerful drug. Every bit of a reaction reinforces their belief in their own importance and invincibility. In contrast, when our reactivity is withdrawn, that constant supply of validation evaporates, leaving them with an acute sense of emptiness. It's as if the lights in their carefully staged performance have been turned off, exposing the hollowness beneath. Without our emotional fuel, they no longer feel the rush of power or the exhilaration of being the center of attention. Instead, they confront their disquiet in silence, a realization that their self-worth was entirely dependent on our reactions. This emptiness can be deeply unsettling for a narcissist, where they once thrived on the emotional highs provided by our responses, a mix of admiration, anger, or even frustration. Without it, they feel diminished and lost. The contrast is stark. On one side, the exhilarating, almost addictive sensation of being needed and adored, and on the other, the barren landscape of insignificance and exposure. This disparity is precisely why they are so driven and motivated to provoke our reactions. Our emotions not only validate their identity, but also mask the underlying insecurity that would otherwise leave them feeling unmoored and empty. When we stop playing their game, we strip the narcissist of the validation they desperately crave. A validation that fuels a facade built on manipulation and stolen fragments of our true selves. Deprived of our reactions, their carefully constructed illusion begins to crumble, leaving them exposed to the gnawing emptiness of their real self. That inner void is unsettling because it reveals their profound insecurity. Their identity is a patchwork of borrowed bits rather than an authentic being. In contrast, by choosing not to engage, we reclaim our power. We no longer contribute to the narcissist cycle of control. Instead of defining our worth through their distorted lens, we build a wholeness from within. A true identity grounded in our own intrinsic value. This self-assurance not only diminishes their power, but also reinforces the truth that our worth is not contingent on someone else's need to manipulate or control. Narcissists thrive on external validation because deep down their self-worth is a fragile facade built on borrowed admiration. So by beating the narcissist at their own game, they will be forced to find new participants. They will relentlessly pursue new supply, be it fresh victims, enablers, or flying monkeys, to prop up their false narrative. Every compliment, every bit of praise, momentarily fills the void of their inner emptiness, masking an underlying insecurity they cannot face. Their reliance on this external reinforcement is not just a craving for attention, it's a desperate effort to maintain a sense of importance that they know is otherwise non-existent. When a narcissist receives continuous validation, it creates an addictive emotional high, a fleeting euphoria that bolsters their grandiose self-image. However, the moment that supply dries up, the stark reality sets in. Without our reactions, without the praise and submission they depend on, the carefully constructed illusion of their identity begins to crumble. Their true self, an insecure identity core, is exposed, leaving them feeling vulnerable and exposed. When we choose to disengage, we stop feeding into their need for constant validation. Rather than chasing after an illusion, we cultivate peace and quiet, nurturing an authentic being that is not reliant on the fleeting energy of others. Our self-worth is derived from within, a deep-seated sense of identity that grows stronger in solitude and genuine self-acceptance. Ultimately, while the narcissist scrambles to find new sources of supply to patch up their crumbling facades, we reclaim our power, peace, and our authenticity. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Hit the subscribe button to receive the notifications. If you would like to support the channel, you can donate at paypal.me/Narc Survivor. You can book a one-on-one with me on my website. It's narcsurvivor.co.uk. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.